Hi, my name is Ed Sipler, and I work for the Southeastern Health and Social Care Trust across both our addiction service and health development department. Now, I work with a lot of people who are trying to make changes in their lives, whether it's alcohol and drug issues or well-being issues, or with their kids. And I get asked a question quite a lot: what keeps change going? Well, in partnership with ASCERT, we made this clip to try to give you some answers on that question. So, like I said, people want to make a whole range of changes or improvements in their lives. And you can apply these ideas to any change you want to make in your life. Well, maybe it's about losing weight. Maybe you want to stop smoking. You're managing diabetes. You're trying to improve your health heart. You're trying to improve your mental health and well-being. Trying to cut down or stop drinking or taking drugs. You want to drink more water. Absolutely any change. This is going to look at what keeps long-term change going. Now, what's it based on? I read an article several years ago, bit of a mouthful, the theoretical explanation for the maintenance of behavior change, a systematic review of behavioral theories. Now, what they did, they looked at all the papers about what keeps change going, and they put it together in one article. It was a powerful read, and I talk about this a lot now with people. Now, what the article was arguing, usually change starts with some kind of crisis, some kind of leverage that says, I need to change. And while that may motivate you to want to start making a change, it can be very different to what keeps change going in the long term. So, what the article was telling us, 6 themes that keeps change going. Now I'm going to talk about each one. There's motivation, self-regulation. We'll have to talk about what that means. Lapses and relapses. How do I keep coming back if I slip? Habits, how I form healthy habits. Resources, those internal strengths both inside ourselves and outside ourselves. And environmental and social influences. Like I said, I'm going to talk about each one. Now, motivation. You think, well, that's a no-brainer. That's going to keep change going. But what that actually means, change keeps going if people can put their finger on the benefits of what that change is making for them. They own them. Now they find ways to reinforce themselves because change takes a lot of effort. And that might mean you need to give yourself a pat on the back every now and again, or other people give you that reinforcement. Now, self-determined identity, that change fits your values, your goals, even your identity. And that's going to be quite important. You see yourself as a non-smoker, a non-drinker, somebody who is physically active. And a lot of time change starts with extrinsic motivation. Somebody's suggesting, well, this would be a good idea. But in intrinsic motivation, you telling yourself, I want to do this. That's more important. That's a bigger, stronger influence on keeping change going. But most important, I'm going to say motivation is about you can put your finger on the benefits. You own them. And those benefits are important to you. Now, the second is self-regulation. Now, self-regulation is knowing what you're thinking, feeling, doing. It's about looking inward. And it's a way to deal with temptations because change is hard work. And what's going to get in conflict with long-term goals. And people tend to maintain change when they have effective ways to overcome the barriers, because it's hard to make change if the barriers keep coming up. And a lot of times in the early days of making a change, those self-regulation skills not automatic, and people have to work out a little bit harder, at them. And when motivation dips, the need for active self-regulation is even more needed. So far, motivation, self-regulation. Let's move on to lapses and relapses. Now, if self-regulation involves cope with barriers, overcome temptations, and avoiding relapse, well, we need to look at what a lapse and a relapse is. A lapse is a single event that means you fall back from your goal. A relapse, well, that's a sequence of lapses that are strung together, and people are falling back. Now, usually when dealing with high-risk situations, coping strategies build your confidence. That's self-efficacy. I can do this. and positive expectancies. This is going to help me. That's going to help build your strength to prevent relapses. And one of the things about relapses, I'm going to throw in here, it increases what we call the absolution violation effect. You're putting a lot of effort into making a change and you fall back. Well, something just clicks in the head, you beat yourself up. We might need something to help us with that, and I'll talk about that later. So we're dealing with lapses and relapses, and every time you deal with a bit of pressure, a bit of temptation, you're building another brick in that wall of change. Good, you want to build that wall higher. Now, habits. A lot of times the behaviors we're trying to change is a habit, and habits can be unhealthy. Well, what you're looking at is how you turn those unhealthy habits and you develop more healthier habits. It becomes automatic. Now, habits take a while to build. Some people would argue it can take as long as 2 months for a habit to become ingrained. But it might involve in the early days removing cues that trigger thoughts about the old behavior. You leave an ashtray. You say you're trying to smoke. You leave an ashtray trays around the house. Well, remove them. You don't keep your fridge stocked with all those goodies we like to eat. But later on, you develop healthier habits that become more automatic. Now, resources. Resources are your psychological strengths, both inside and outside yourself. And what we find is maintaining behavior change is more successful if your psychological and physical resources are plentiful. Now, when your resources are limited, you're tired, you're stressed, that self-regulation is limited, well, change is going to be hard to keep going. So it's about rest, good lifestyle. That can include diet, sleep, being physically active, positive self-care to replenish and restore those resources. But also might involve those executive functioning skills, problem solving, decision making, coping skills, how I deal with pressure, how I deal with my emotions. They take a while to build, but they certainly help keep change going in the long term. Now, the final thing is environmental and social influences. That's about support. Good support increases the capacity to keep going because you're more likely to find guidance from people you trust and feel connected to. And the groups you belong to tend to shape you. So, they're going to help keep change going. You're around people that want the same thing or can encourage you to keep that change going. So those 6 themes: motivation, lapses and relapses, self-regulation, healthy habits, your resources, both inside and outside yourself, and the support you can get. That's social influences. That's what helps keep change going in the long term. Now, maybe we need to look a bit deeper, because what seems to be significant around people's well-being and maintaining behavior change is agency. Now, agency, I'm going to have to define what we mean. Agency is about you deciding what will work for you. And Martin Seligman talks a lot about this from the University of Pennsylvania. Agency is related to 3 things. That's self-efficacy, that belief, I can do this, but optimism as well. Hope, this is going to turn out well, and imagination. So you can apply the range of goals in different areas. And that hope and belief in yourself is really important, because if we don't have the confidence, don't we run the risk of talking ourselves out of it? Well, it's not that important. I'll do that next week. Now, to make change, it has to be important, but we also have to have the confidence to do it and the belief. This is going to help me. That's what's going to increase our agency. Now, what we put together, and you can download this from the description of the YouTube clip, a little tool just to look at those 6 areas so you can see, where are my strengths, but what could I work on? And that you can download that tool, just go on the description of the clip. There it is. Our colleagues in ASCERT are putting it on their website for you. Now, there are a couple more things I'd like to mention, because along with this clip, we also have 3 short videos to support your well-being. One, I think it's really useful, how stress and trauma affects our nervous system. The second is self-care, ideas for healing, when we do have a lot of stress, in our lives. And then dealing with worry, because I think we'd all agree, well, these last couple of years have been fraught with worry. So those 3 clips are either found just by typing on my name, Ed Sipler, into YouTube, or go on the ASCERT website, www.assert.biz. And there's also booklets. Again, like this clip, you go in the description of the clip, on each of the site, on the YouTube site, there's a place where you can download the 3 booklets that go along with those 3 clips. Now, one thing I really like, in the clip looking at self-care, what we talk about is how we help build our sense of well-being. And a number of things that really do help. Relaxed breathing. Relaxed breathing is a tool we all have and can use at any time we need it. Now, the key with relaxed breathing, when you get stressed, you're breathing short and shallow. Relaxed breathing, you're breathing out more than you breathe in. It's a tool to help keep us calm and focused. Self-compassion can be a really important tool, because if we beat ourselves up, and people here in Northern Ireland do that quite a lot. We also looked at natural ways to build the positive chemicals we need to really adjust our well-being, because stress will build stress hormones, but we need those positive chemicals to balance it. And using positive emotions to deal with stress. Now, positive emotions are going to build dopamine. You do it regularly and consistently. Now, that's going to improve what they call cognitive flexibility. You see the broader outlook to things rather than zoom in on the negative. And that's the build and broad theory, or the broad and build theory, by Barbara Fredrickson. She came out with that in 2001. Again, you can download that booklet with loads of ideas to help you from that YouTube site. One more thing, and I did talk about the absolution violation effect. Well, if we do tend to slip back, don't we beat ourselves up with a big stick? Yeah, you're on a diet, you're doing really well, clothes fitting a bit better. There's that pack of biscuits in the cupboard, and you're still buying them because the kids like them. And one day you eat one. I've been doing really well. Maybe I'll just have one. Now, am I talking a bit personal? Yeah, I am. Because when you eat one, that negative criticism comes in and something clicks. I've fallen aside. I've broken my resolve, and something clicks. In for a penny, in for a pound. And now self-criticism kicks in, and then you eat the whole pack. Self-compassion, the way there's mounting evidence that mindfulness with a compassionate voice can impact people's capacity to keep change going. Now, the next thing we're going to work on are YouTube clips on self-compassion, but there's lots out there, and it might be something to have a look at. And if you look up Christian Neff's work on the internet, there's plenty of resources out there to help us look at how do we talk to ourselves, how we appreciate that every human being on this planet has weaknesses, make mistakes. You make a mistake, it doesn't make you a bad person. And you use mindfulness to recognize your feelings in the here and now, but you're using mindfulness focused on one thing to bring yourself back to the here and now. Self-compassion can really be a tool in our toolkit to help keep change going. Now, it's my hope you heard something in this clip that can make a difference for you. Now, the question I'm going to leave you with, how can it build your agency to keep the change you're deciding to make going? Because after all, it's your change, it's what you want. And when you start that change, my hope is, yeah, you can keep it going. So the bigger question, well, I hope you heard something today in this clip that was helpful. The bigger question, what are you going to do with it? It's entirely your decision. It's your choice. But it's my hope that the ideas in this will help you make the changes you want in your life. Thanks very much for tuning into this clip. Thanks very much for our colleagues in ASCERT to help put this on YouTube for us. And I really do hope it helps you, like I said, make the changes you want in your life. Thanks very much.